Hey everybody, welcome back to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Adam. We're here with Coach Tara today and Director Jolie in the studio. Before we get into our topic of VO2 max and how it relates to strength training here, in general, and then here at Legacy, we're going to go ahead and get into Member of the Week. And this week it's going to be Victor Vasquez. So Victor, longtime member, both he and his wife Haley come in. And Victor is he's an airline pilot and recently had a little medical procedure, I believe, in his eye. So he's actually had a little bit of like a leave from work. And obviously, I mean, he's flying a commercial plane. We want the man to be able to see, you know. So he's been on a break from work, and he has used that time very efficiently and been in the gym here a lot. So very consistent, optimizing his time. He's always tracking his weights really well. And he had a little bit of a discussion with us on like some in-body results and stuff that he was kind of puzzled by. So he's trying some new nutrition things while he's got the time for it, and seeing if he can kind of change some habits or routines. You guys got anything else on Victor?
Yeah, I think he's taken advantage of just taking time, being able to take some time off of work and heal, but also, you know, he's cleared to work out. He's been super consistent with his workouts. He's been like, how can I get better? Like asking us in sessions, how can I get better? How can I make my nutrition better? Like what more can I do? And he's just always wanting to grow, which is what we're all about.
Yeah. Fun to train. Always fun. So nice job, Victor.
Let's
keeping
go.
it up, and then we'll see you in the skies again soon. So today's topic, VO2 max, how does it, we're going to do a couple different approaches on this. One, what it is. It's going to be kind of a sciencey answer. Then we're going to simplify a little bit. And then I think also talk about how it affects strength training, because that's what we do, you know, here, functional training at Legacy. So kind of how it all connects. And really this is stemming from, I was getting questions last week, obviously with the start of the Olympics. Now they might be, by the time you guys hear this, they'll be over at this point. But it kind of stemmed from VO2 max being dropped in the broadcast and stuff like that, because these elite athletes have very impressive VO2 max numbers that are not attainable for your average person usually. But that was kind of just brought up in general, just in kind of conversation. So kind of just triggered the topic. And so here we go. VO2 max. Essentially, it is definition. It's your maximum oxygen uptake or intake during intense exercise. So essentially a way to measure in units your heart's ability to pump blood efficiently, how oxygen is being used in your body, and being exchanged in the lungs, and basically determining how long you can give maximal or near maximal effort in an intense exercise situation. So the units, if we're going to get sciencey here, it's represented in millilans, milliliters per kilogram per minute, just to give kind of a range here on what's normal versus what's on the upper end. So a lot of this is age-based, right? And then, of course, there's gender, men versus women as well. But most people are going to be somewhere in the low 30s to mid 40s in milliliters per kilogram per minute. Basically, a couple of different ways to go about how you would measure this. Lab testing is probably the most common. So you have to be in a situation where, you know, you're able to, you have the resources. A lot of people in school or studying kinesiology or exercise science and things like that actually have the opportunity to be able to go through this testing in their classes. It's usually not done with, you know, like we're not going to run VO2 max testing here at Legacy, because it's essentially you're building up to a very much close to maximal effort, and not something super sustainable that you want to be doing with a large group of people. But lab testing is a way to do it. There's also field tests if you're looking for a way to maybe just give yourself a ballpark idea on maybe where you are as far as where you land on the spectrum on VO2 max, there's an at-home formula, and you could basically take the number 15.3 and multiply that by your maximum heart rate divided by your resting heart rate. So, a way to find estimated max heart rate would be 220 minus your age. That's how you get that top number. And then your resting heart rate is obviously just at rest. You can take that number, in a 10-second count or whatever. You can do that math pretty easily. So again, 15.3 times max heart rate over resting heart rate, and that can kind of give you ballpark area. Jolie, I know you had a pretty good analogy on how you could describe what VO2 max is in very layman's terms, and it's a complex topic, but give it to us.
I like things broken down as much as possible. So VO2 max is like how good your body is at taking in oxygen, delivering it, and then producing it as energy output.
Yeah.
Yes. So if we're looking at like a car analogy, we're looking at two cars, car A, car B. Car A is going to have a smaller engine, probably going to overheat a little bit more quickly. And then car B, we're looking at a larger engine. It's got a better cooling system. So if we're looking at both of those cars kind of trying to drive up a hill, they're both capable of driving. They're both capable of moving forward, right? But when you're going uphill or speeding up or trying to tow something, car B is going to handle it better with putting less strain on the engine, right? So for me, that's something that was like, okay, like if we're looking for an analogy for VO2 max, right? A higher VO2 max is going to be a bigger engine.
Yep. Bigger engine. So like body engine, we talk about it in sports a lot, like building up an athlete's engine is like ability to perform over a long period of time. So the car analogy is a perfect one. Easy. You're both going to get the same place you're trying to be. It's just going to be a lot more efficient and easier for one than the other. I thought this was kind of cool just before we get into how this relates to strength training, Tara. But before we get into that, actually happened early this year. So this is like a relatively new record, I think in January, just 2026. Highest ever recorded VO2 max was just measured in January this past month.
Yeah.
Norwegian triathlete Christian Blumenfelt, he recorded a 101 milliliters per kilogram per minute early this year.
Wow.
Just as a reference point, elite athletes are usually in the 65 to 85 range. This man was at 101, and this was a lab test from what I've seen and did some research on. So that's pretty crazy, but take an Olympic triathlete, that's, and even then still an outlier by, 20 milliliters, which is crazy. So that's just a little fun fact that happened relatively recently. But Tara, why don't we get into how VO2 max affects strength training and just performance in the gym, maybe in between sets, or like how fatigue kind of plays a role and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we've talked about the resting in between sets and reps, right?
Yeah.
That's where the VO2 max comes into play. How efficient when you're executing a rep, whether it's strength where you're going heavy or doing more as far as hypertrophy and endurance, you're going to increase your heart rate. The VO2 max comes into play as how fast can you get your heart rate back down in between sets.
Right.
And that's what you're looking to improve when you're looking at VO2 max in the weight room, with the strength training.
Yep.
The biggest thing I find is like we all have our watches. They're not the best as far as actually accurate calculations, but it's a number you can see.
Right.
So I like personally seeing what I get on that effort and like, okay, when I get back down to this number, okay, it's going to be time to go again. So that's my rest period.
Yeah.
But then I also look and see how fast I got back down.
Right.
So that's a way to see how well your VO2 max is doing personally for you throughout the workout.
Yeah, it's a good indicator of like just overall, if we were to just blanket cardiovascular health, and VO2 max is a good, I guess, a number to put to that. Mm-hmm. It's how quickly can your heart recover. We talk about like these bouts, like we do it with our finishers, our metabolic finishers at the end of our sessions, quick spikes and hopefully quick recoveries. And you're just going up and down, because that's the most efficient way to, one, try to improve your VO2 max if you're doing it intentionally or not, but also just challenges your cardiovascular system in the most efficient way.
To become efficient.
Yeah, to become efficient, right. So, the fatigue resistance, like being able to delay that systemic fatigue or even like mental fatigue, those kind of mental blockages, being able to have like that BPM number to be able to kind of follow, like you said, Tara, is a good thing to do. And then as far as turning around and doing it the next day, that's like, right, that's acute recovery we're talking about in a single session. But then we want people to obviously be as consistent as they can be in the gym overall, like in like a week snapshot. We want you to be able to turn around and come tomorrow also. So the readiness for training the next day and keeping that consistency, and then, you know, we've talked about consistency leading to results and things like that, the domino effect that has, the session to session recovery is a big like byproduct of what a high or a good VO2 max can do for you as far as recovery. So there's different ways that this, you know, it helps different types of people in the gym. You have like your power lifters, your bodybuilders, and then more like your just functional training, general population people, which is like the majority of our members here at Legacy, and the majority of people that you'll see in like your everyday gym, right? So it's being able to, the VO2 max, it helps tolerate your volume and helps you get like these long hour-long sessions, right? Like you can get a lot of work done in an hour, even with the appropriate rests. So being able to improve your recovery without kind of dipping into or without hurting the strength efforts that you can put into an hour, that's kind of what you look for as far as general population, being able to improve, or not improve, but perform at a relatively high level for a relatively long amount of time, right? So like an hour is what we're looking at for most people. Let's talk about maybe how it can hurt strength gains. And we've talked about this a little bit in the past with types of cardio, right? Like timing is everything, duration is everything. You got one of you guys want to get into that?
Well, I feel like people listening, this is just something that's top of mind. People listening are going to be like, well, okay, you can calculate it at home, but why do we not do VO2 max testing here? Like, why don't we do it? Like,
you want me to answer that, or you got that?
I would love input from one of you. Why don't we do it here, Tara?
Oh my gosh. I know you've done it, Tara.
Yeah.
You had to
Honestly, not really.
No, you never done it once?
No. Well, the lab version of it, we just don't have the equipment for it.
Right.
Yeah.
The field testing, a lot of it, in the gym, you could make an area for it.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't have the true space for it for the amount of people.
Right.
You would definitely have to be in the field, so outside somewhere.
Yeah.
Where you have the ability to do it. That's why we wouldn't do it here.
Yeah.
Right.
Specifically.
Pulling it off for the masses is hard, but
Exactly. But it's also like physically.
yeah,
Oh,
physically.
well,
so
it's
just to give,
going to be a lot.
yeah, it's going to be crazy. So
Just to give everyone a picture, like VO2 max, like that max.
yeah, like
for a
we had
reason.
full disclosure yesterday. We had somebody that happened to get sick here, and like, I mean,
It happens
I'm
every now
sorry
and
it
then.
happens. Like it happens occasionally, but all right, you were working hard. Like congrats, that's awesome. But
That's like feeling like that after.
it's
Right.
gonna be like that for the majority of people that try to do this. So there's actually, you know, technically, if we wanted to, all you would need is a treadmill or a bike. Those are the two most common modalities to use for the actual testing itself. Treadmill is a little more accurate, I guess you would say, because you can yield a higher heart rate because of like the muscle mass that's, you know, going into each step that you're taking and the force and the impact. It's a little more accurate than a bike would be. Plus a little more practical. Like not everybody's a biker, but everybody can run, right? So you could do it on a treadmill, and like we have treadmills here, but you need, one, the participant that's crazy enough to do it. Two, you need probably 2, if not 3 people monitoring that one person. Somebody's monitoring heart rate, somebody's monitoring intensity level RPE, and that's objective, right? And then you've got somebody that's actually monitoring the modality, like the device itself, making sure that, okay, at the 90-second mark, we're now at level 5. At the 2-minute mark, we're now at level 8. Like it takes a lot of people. But I mean, that's what you need for an accurate measure.
Absolutely.
So you just can't, you can't do it with a large portion of people.
Yeah.
And a single person running it.
And a single person running it. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And I just, even in the grand scheme of things, it's great information to have.
Yeah.
And our job here is to, focus on that functional movement, integrating fitness into your lifestyle. So we're like breaking down this concept for you all to know and understand, like, okay, like my aerobic capacity, like these things matter and how they can help your strength training or hurt them.
Right.
Right. But just, we're not going to be doing VO2 max training here, guys. Just not something that we do here at Legacy. So just had to touch on that because I know
I've too excited to get maxed out.
Yes. Exactly.
But I mean, there's the times when it does help, and what's more practical for us here at Legacy is like we do have these low impact cardio modalities where we can perform the spiking and recovery of heart rate. So the combination of that, it's aerobic work, but not aerobic work to failure, right? We're able to incorporate oxygen consumption and try to get that, it's really most effective in like zone 2 aerobic work is where we can make our progress here in the gym without being, maxed to a crazy level. Combination of that and just, like smart programming, like we're not going to have you, we do it anyways, but we would never have you do bouts of cardio before your strength training, right? So it's the programming itself is we're going to warm you up, you're going to do your strength training, and then we're going to have these intervals at the end of the day that are going to try to improve that. So like our short and high intensity intervals that we shoot for, or like what we try to give people, are somewhere in like the 30 to 90 second range, right? Because it's aerobic work in zone 2, but it's usually consecutive bouts, so you're able to get that aerobic feeling in an anaerobic window. So the conditioning sessions are short on purpose, and that's where that whole idea of just doing more cardio is the misconception, right? Like we don't want to just do more cardio. It's just a matter of doing the correct kind of cardio and like prioritizing the strength training first. That's the main goal. If that's your main goal is to gain strength, which it should be for most people. And then, we'll mix in the cardio, the right kind of cardio when we can. And that's, I guess, what you could take away from this if you're trying to execute it or somewhat kind of work on it yourself here in the gym, is just try to capitalize or optimize your finishers where it's like, you're going to be working hard for maybe 30 to 90 seconds hard at a time, and you're going to have maybe 2, 3, 4 rounds. Push yourself to what you want to call your max pretty much in that little window, and you're going to be replicating somewhat close to what somebody that's training to increase their VO2 max would be doing if they did it in more official, I guess, way. But we're trying to create not necessarily strong athletes here, but strong functional people that can go out in the real world and perform physical activities and have their lifestyle be a lot simpler because they're in better shape. So we want you to recover faster, build a better engine, and your VO2 max number is essentially putting a number on your engine, right? How well you're able to perform at a certain level and be able to repeat it throughout the week. So you got anything else there? Should we call it? Let's wrap it up.
That was a deep breath. There we go. I think that's just I feel like we covered a lot in there.
I feel like I just did a VO2 max test. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. A little bit of a sciencey one right there, but we'll come back next week with some more great stuff.
Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.